Billy Graham was a man who inspired millions of people, but he had secrets that no one could have imagined. Behind the stage where he preached, behind the newspaper headlines, his life had layers the world never saw. For many years, what people saw in public hid a story that only now makes people curious. Every movement he made, every word he spoke, every choice he made might have meant more than anyone knew. The real truth about his life has always been closer and stranger than it seems. Billy Graham was born on November 7th, 1918 on a 300-acre dairy farm in Charlotte, North Carolina. Life on the farm was hard and took a lot of work. Each day started before the sun came up and ended long after the sun went down, filled with chores that tested how strong and patient you were. His father was strict and expected him to obey completely, while his mother had quiet, strong faith. As the oldest of 4 children, Billy learned responsibility quickly. He learned how to take care of his younger brothers and sisters, take care of the animals, and help work in the fields. But during all the busy work, he also learned something deeper, what it felt like to be alone. As a teenager, Billy pushed back against the strict rules that had shaped his early years. He looked for freedom in baseball games, laughing with friends, beer, and even small bets. Religion seemed far away, almost like it didn't matter, and he avoided church whenever he could. Freedom felt alive, exciting, and real. But underneath the brave outside, a quiet loneliness grew. Billy felt restless, like a part of him was missing, something he couldn't name yet. Everything began to change in 1934 when Billy went to a revival meeting led by evangelist Mordecai Ham. He didn't expect to feel anything. But that night, something moved deep inside him. For the first time, he felt a strong feeling he couldn't ignore. Soon after, he opened his mother's old Bible. He didn't fully understand why he did it. He only knew that reading those worn pages brought a comfort and curiosity he had never felt before. It was a spark of awareness that would grow into a calling far bigger than the farm or the fields. In 1936, Billy enrolled at Bob Jones College in Tennessee. The strict rules clashed with the boy who loved freedom. After only a few months, he left looking for a place where he could explore his beliefs. He transferred to Florida Bible Institute where he could study, question, and grow. There he was baptized and joined the Southern Baptist Convention, taking his first real steps toward faith. After graduating, Billy Graham moved to Wheaton College in Illinois. There he threw himself into studying and life on campus, graduating in 1943 with a degree in anthropology. At Wheaton, he began shaping the voice that would one day speak to millions. He worked at the United Gospel Tabernacle in downtown Wheaton, preaching in nearby Chicago, and learning to speak with clarity and honesty. It was also at Wheaton that his personal life found its anchor. In 1943, he married Ruth Bell, the daughter of a medical missionary. Ruth became his partner, close friend, and support in a life that would demand much from both of them. Billy's ministry began in a small way. After he became an ordained minister in 1940, he briefly led a small church in Illinois. But the pull of evangelism was stronger. By 1945, he joined Youth for Christ as a charter vice president. He traveled across the United States, speaking to young people, students, and military members. Billy rejected complicated religious debates. He preached in simple, direct language, focusing on sin, salvation, and hope. His style was earnest, sincere, and easy to understand. People trusted him because he seemed genuine. In 1949, Billy Graham stepped into a moment that would change everything. He launched a tent revival in Los Angeles, expecting just a few weeks of meetings. What happened inside that canvas tent surprised everyone. The crowds grew day by day, getting bigger than anyone imagined. Soon, the revival became something the whole city was talking about. People came from every walk of life, workers, students, housewives, and the tired and worn out. They came looking for hope, comfort, and answers to questions they often couldn't say out loud. As his influence grew, Billy realized he needed a structure to guide his expanding mission. In 1950, he founded the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association in Minneapolis. Later, he moved its headquarters back to Charlotte, North Carolina, closer to the farm where his story had begun. Over the course of his career, he preached in more than 400 crusades across 185 countries and territories. Live audiences numbered over 215 million, an incredible number that barely captures how big his impact was. Some of his campaigns became historic moments. In 1957, Graham returned to New York City, planning only 6 weeks of preaching. The city had other plans. He stayed 16 weeks. Crowds of more than 100,000 gathered at Yankee Stadium, and over 60,000 people made decisions for Christ during that single crusade. In a time of deep racial tension, Graham refused to preach to separated audiences. He insisted that faith should be shared with everyone equally. Billy Graham's influence reached the highest halls of power. For decades, he served as a spiritual advisor to U.S. presidents from Harry Truman all the way to Barack Obama. Everywhere he went, people listened. His words carried weight, not just in churches, but in the hallways of government. He even worked alongside Martin Luther King Jr., who gave the opening prayer at one of Graham's New York Crusade nights. Yet his civil rights legacy was complicated. He opposed segregation, but did not join the historic March on Washington in 1963. Behind the public acclaim, his personal life told a different story. Years of travel and endless preaching put huge strain on his marriage to Ruth. She raised their children mostly on her own. In later interviews, Billy admitted regret. He wished he had studied more, preached less, and spent more time at home. Despite the personal sacrifices, recognition followed him wherever he went. He received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1983 and the Congressional Gold Medal in 1996. Even a life built on faith can face moments that shake the soul. His close friendship with Richard Nixon caused controversy. Critics said that he had become too politically aligned. At the same time, his body began to fail him. In 1992, he was diagnosed with hydrocephalus, a dangerous buildup of fluid in the brain. The following year, he publicly revealed he had Parkinson's disease. Prostate cancer, broken hips, and other health problems followed. Yet, even as his body got weaker, his spirit refused to fade. In 2005, he delivered what he called his last North American crusade in New York City. The following year, he gave his final public sermon at a festival of hope in New Orleans led by his son Franklin. Even in illness, he remained deeply involved with the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. Billy Graham passed away on February 21st, 2018 at his home in Montreat, North Carolina, just shy of his 100th birthday. The world mourned the loss of a man who had touched millions of lives. For decades, Graham's influence had drawn more than admiration. The FBI reportedly monitored him, watching a man whose words reached presidents and powerful figures across the globe. In his later years, Graham wrote with surprising honesty. He reflected on fear, regret, and the burden of his public life. He did not want to be remembered as a saint, but as a sinner saved by grace. The Billy Graham Library in Charlotte stands as a pilgrimage site. The Billy Graham Evangelistic Association continues under Franklin Graham, running international outreach programs, disaster relief, and media ministries. Yet even now, after his death, the full story of Billy Graham remains only partially told. Some of his most personal reflections are still locked away, waiting to emerge. The man who walked alongside presidents, comforted nations, and spoke to millions carried thoughts and struggles that few ever saw. Billy Graham's legacy is both immense and mysterious. A global figure, yet a man of quiet humility, celebrated yet examined closely, known yet still only partially understood.